is Faith Family Cars Podcast. I'm Jerry.
I'm Zach.
Hit the key.
Why are we even having?
Hey,
we're moving past this part of the conversation. My wife is going to watch this, so
you always get the money out when you invest into a car. If you invest $10,000, you'll get $11,000 out of it.
right.
Our wives are listening. Our wives are listening. We gotta speak the correct way.
Okay. So, all right. So let's.
I just realized you have notes.
I do have notes.
Oh, okay.
I like to try to keep myself on track.
Right on. You guys are professional.
Look, if you only knew me.
No, we're not. Just
I'm the
yesterday's
guy.
recording shows that we are not professionals.
I'm the guy that has the wipe-off board in the garage with all my notes of what I'm doing to the project vehicle.
Right.
And when I get done with the vehicle, I start checking stuff off.
Yeah. Well, okay.
You know, because I never looked at that list from the time after I made it.
Well, we have if you went through the garage for this, there's about 16 different lists, right, that we've started, and then we can't find the old one, and then so we finally started putting it on the garage door.
So what one thing good about making a list, at least get your thought process moving in the right direction. Right. Even if you never look at that list again,
I think
you've got it in your mind.
Putting it on paper or talking about it helps out a lot.
Yeah.
I know I did with my Mustang. I kind of figured out.
I make lists. We very rarely ever stay on track.
No, we both got ADHD.
Well, I'm a pretty linear guy. I like to just
stay
on focus, stay on track.
Oh yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, I've noticed that talking to you in your kitchen.
Dude, it's like a ferret on meth in my mind. It's just like
I understand. I got ADHD, so I get it.
He's all over the place.
Our podcasts are so tangential because he says something, I'm like, that reminds me.
He veers off.
Yep. It happens all the time.
So we are going to talk about your truck now.
Okay.
All right, because your truck is what we most of all seen on YouTube before the Blavette,
right?
And it's set up to autocross, right?
It is.
Yeah, and it looks like an autocross truck. It looks cool with the little wing on the back and everything.
And it's a long bed.
And it is a long bed.
We love long beds here.
Okay, well, it's a long bed, and I'm stubborn, and it will always be a long bed.
Good.
You won't cut it down.
Absolutely. Right. Every time you cut a long bed, a puppy dies.
I can agree with that. Yeah. I think that's good.
These people are murderers.
Yeah, they are. They are. But most people will say a long bed truck is junk. It's not worth buying. And
it's certainly not worth being on the autocross.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But whenever I look at having that long bed truck, and I don't know, with you autocrossing yours, you might not still do this with it, but my truck goes to Lowe's and buys a 4x8 sheet of plywood.
Oh, dude.
Because it lays down inside the fenders.
I haul stuff in that all the time. It's a truck.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about the long beds is you can haul whatever you want. You got plenty of space there. But let's not get hung up on that. Let's get to the truck. Tell us all about the truck, and I know there's a good story behind it, and I want you to tell us a story about the truck.
Oh, and this is where it gets convoluted.
Yes.
Okay.
So actually the truck can probably lead right into you telling your story too.
So the truck, and the reason you bring that up, the truck was my home at one point, for a brief time. And so, and you know how I was struggling giving you the short version earlier?
Yes.
Okay, so back when I worked for Prison Fellowship, we had to, which is a prison ministry, we had to come up with what we call the elevator speech. And that is basically, you get in the elevator with somebody and they ask you what you do, and you've got from when the doors close to you get to the lobby to explain it to them, right? Gotcha. Well, my boss said, you're going to have to hit that emergency stop button. He goes, because there's no way.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and make this very short.
But look, this is the main part of what I want us to focus on.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the church, and I want to establish that. There's a reason I want to establish that. I grew up in a very faith-based Christian home, very missional-based. My parents have been on countless missions. I have too, but my grandparents, while they didn't actually go on missions, they had a pharmacy up in northern Indiana, and they were constantly shipping out medical supplies to missionaries around the world.
Yeah.
So I grew up with a very strong Christian background. I grew up in Greencastle, Indiana, which is west of here. Ended up going to DePaul, which is in Greencastle. Graduated from DePaul. always thought I was going to be an attorney. Okay. My senior year at DePaul, I started working for campus security. I was a door locker.
Okay.
Or, I just checking doors.
Checking doors.
And, but the DePaul police station is where all the local cops hung out at night. And so I'm suddenly surrounded by all these cops. If you knew me growing up, being a cop would have been the last thing you would have thought would ever happen to me. Yeah. Next thing you know, I'm in the academy. I got hired by a big department. There was an opening at my home department. I went home, and I am a county brown shoe in my hometown. Okay. Took over the K-9 program. It had kind of died, and I begged for it, and they gave it to me. And next thing you know, I'm making drug arrests right and left. And I kind of became known as the drug guy. My career was very interesting. At one point, I was undercover in Indianapolis for a couple years. I could go in so many directions, but I won't. Anyway, I also learned what I got really good at was finding drugs and drug money in transit. Okay, we had I-70 running through our county. Okay, so July 4th, 1999, I pull over a tractor trailer on I-70. Turned into be record-breaking, largest cocaine bust in the interior of the United States ever. Oh, wow. 628 kilos of the purest, uncut coke the DEA had ever seen. Wow. Now there have been larger seizures, but they were what they call whisper stops, and that's they had intelligence that it was rolling through. For a cold stop, and as far as I know, it still holds. So when that happened, suddenly everybody wanted to know how I did what I did, right? And next thing you know, I'm traveling all over the country teaching, okay? Money starts flowing in, head starts going like this, right? Ego is growing. My boss at the time, the sheriff, he was not the best. And suddenly I have two options in my mind. I am either going, because I was getting job offers from everywhere. So I'm either going to go to a big department or I'm going to run for sheriff, right? In my hometown. I ran for sheriff. I ran against my boss in the primary on his ticket, took him out. It was a big win too. So it was like
it is a big win.
Well, it was a 2-to-1 vote too. It was ridiculous. Okay. So here goes the head a little bit more. Right. 2-to-1. The general election was. Anyway, I won. So first term, we knuckled down, turned our department around. The way it works in Indiana, if you have empty beds, the Department of Corrections will have you hold inmates that are like low level, and you can hold them for like a year, and they pay your department to pay or to hold them. So it's a money maker, right? So
Kentucky does something similar to that.
I'm sure they do. We added a new wing just to house DOC inmates, and we were making a lot of money. But what was interesting is the jail inspector liked our program so much that our jail standards became the state standard. So in other words, if you wanted to house DOC, you followed our policies and procedures, which I wrote. Okay. And so suddenly I'm kind of the governor's golden boy. Right. I'm in, and I was known for taking down meth labs. I was the drug cop. Okay. Head. Okay. Second term. I mean, there really didn't even need to be an election because it just. And don't think I'm gloating here. I'm just telling you how it is, and you'll understand why I'm not gloating here in a minute. Anyway, so. Through the interdiction stuff, the finding dope in transit, I had met a lot of people and trained a lot of people across the country, a lot of SWAT guys. I knew a lot of Special Forces guys. We had a lot of connections, and I started a security company. Now, when I say security, I'm not talking about the sloppy guy at the CVS with the Securitas badge. And that's not what I'm talking. We were, and I hate to use the term, but we were mercenaries. We were, and I hate to use this analogy too, but I mean, you've heard of Blackwater. Okay. We were like Blackwater, only we knew what we were doing. And we were not near as big as Blackwater. We were very small. And we we were a subcontractor for another security organization that had the contract for the President Karzai, the president of Afghanistan. So I had people in Afghanistan. I had them in Nigeria. We were a preferred contractor for NASCAR at one point. Cool. We were everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing about it is, when you're the sheriff, and this is in my second term, when you're the sheriff, you don't have to be there if your team's set up right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was easy for me to concentrate on this. Well, the money was flowing in. I mean, ridiculous amounts of money. Our clientele was ridiculous. So here I am, private jets, if not private, first class. We're flying everywhere because the way it works is, most people that feel they need protected, at minimum you have 5 guys. You have, here's the guy that's hiring you, here's the guy in charge, and then there's a 4-man diamond.
Yep.
Okay, and I was always this guy right here.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, being this guy right here and being the owner, the principal always wanted to be your buddy.
Yeah.
And they're always like, you're coming to dinner with me, even though you were going to be there anyway. No, you're part of dinner.
Yep.
Are you with me?
Yep.
So the head is continuing to do this, right? And a lot of booze, a lot of drinking. There were a lot of things that I looked the other way on. I didn't participate, but I looked the other way. And so what you need to get from this is, I am not being a good steward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, am I still going to church on Sundays? Yeah, when I'm home. Am I still throwing money in the not 10%? Because nobody needed to know what kind of money I was making. And it just became, I was not focused on the right things.
But church was probably more of a platform in the community for your job. I mean,
actually at this point, I mean, I see where you're going, and it had been at one point, but now we were going right. I mean, and everybody wants the sheriff to go to church, right? But again, I had grown up in the church. I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I knew how I was supposed to be acting. But I'm also not paying attention to my main job, which is sheriff. Right? Every year, State Board of Accounts would come in and they would do an audit. Okay, sheriff has 3 budgets: road, jail. Unlike Kentucky, you guys have a jailer and a sheriff, right? Separate elected officials. We, in Indiana, the sheriff runs the jail, the road division also.
Okay.
So all sheriffs in Indiana have 3 budgets. I had 4 because I had a drug forfeiture and seizure account. But you have the road, the jail, my road forfeiture and seizure account, and commissary.
Okay.
Commissary is where the department makes money off of selling cookies and ring dings and stamps to the inmates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Gotcha.
So now the other thing I want to point out is, we were very much a rehabilitative jail, because I never, even when I was a rookie cop, never thought throwing somebody in jail was the answer.
Yeah.
Right? So we were all about, and that was part of the reason we became so popular with DOC, is at the county level, we were having rehab programs. We had a work crew, but it wasn't like you have to go out and work. It was volunteer, and people were scrambling to get on it, right? Because they're outside, we were doing meaningful things. We weren't building one of a barn for the commissioner or anything goofy like that. Well, anyway, now I've even lost track. That's bad when I lose my own track. It's State Board of Accounts. So every year they would come in and do an audit. I never wanted a surprise. So you always knew about what time of the year they'd come. So I always had my girls, my secretaries, who are called matrons. I always had them do an internal audit before this. Right? So one day I'm actually in my office, and my head matron, she comes in, she goes, "Hey, something's goofy," and she hands me this receipt, and it's like for $16. And it just doesn't make sense. It's to one of our local hardwares. And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" So I go over to her desk, and we're sitting here playing, and this was like at noon. 3:00 a.m. we're still digging, and I realize I got some issues.
And it all started from $16.
Yeah, this $16 has now turned into 30-some thousand.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, what is happening? So the next day I called a buddy, I thought he was a buddy, at the state police, white collar crime division. And I said, you need to get in here. Something's going on. He's playing with the books and making some phone calls and on the computer for about 2 hours. And he calls me and he goes, yeah, you got a real problem. I had an employee who was my grant writer embezzle $98,000 in federal funds.
Gosh.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I mean, because this was somebody that I trusted.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't just an employee. He was somebody I really trusted.
Yeah.
So, because it was federal grant dollars, the FBI gets involved. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I should have started thinking something's going on.
Yeah.
Because the agent in charge that shows up was my roommate in the basic law enforcement academy, right?
Okay.
I'm like, okay. Prosecutor assigned to the case had graduated from the same college I did, like a year ahead of me, and we knew each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. I know all these people, right? But about 3 weeks into the case, the prosecutor's removed, and there's a new prosecutor involved. And this guy and I did not get along.
Yeah.
I had royally angered him about 8 years prior to that when I was undercover. And that's a whole story in itself, but basically I let a very strong case go that was my case because he wanted to do the whole FBI. And that's another thing. I was always since day one very critical of any of the ABC organizations. Yep. It's even worse now. Yeah. But the FBI being one that I just couldn't stand. Mm-hmm. And I worked hand in hand with the ATF for several years. But anyway, he wanted to do this whole shock and awe on this case that was mine, and he wanted to put one of my informants on the stand and this whole thing. And like I said, it's a very long story. Mm-hmm. But it's the only time in my career where it was like a movie in that if this guy had gone on the stand, he'd have been dead.
Yeah.
I mean, it just would have happened.
Yeah.
And we didn't need him to testify because I'm the one that did all the hand-to-hand buys. I was the one. All he did was make an introduction.
So keep him out of the picture.
There's no reason to bring him in the picture, right? Yeah. And the thing is, I'm the only one that can connect the case report with this informant number to him.
Yeah.
So without me giving it up, they don't have him.
Yeah.
My sheriff at the time, not the one I ran against, backed me up on it. They said they were going to hold me in contempt as all this stuff. And I'm like, fine, do it. I'll go to jail for 10 days. I don't care. And anyway, the case went away.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking out the door with my sheriff at the time, this prosecutor yelled out my name and he goes, Frisbie, one of these days you're going to, and you can F up. And when you do, I'll be there. Fast forward,
and he's there.
Suddenly he's there, all right? So they tried very hard to connect me to the $98,000.
Yeah.
Could not do it.
Yeah.
Could not connect me. Now, remember, I've got this ego that's like this.
Yeah.
Okay? I have an attorney. Not the attorney that I wanted to get, but it was one that was recommended to me by several people who I thought were close to me, etc. And I find out way later all that was arranged also. Anyway, they start digging. And if you're going to dig into a sheriff, if a sheriff's going to be dirty, he's going to do it in his commissary account. Mm-hmm. Okay, because it's a full discretionary fund. It's easy to hide money, easy to launder money, etc. Now, you got to remember, I don't need, at this point in my life, to steal from anybody for anything.
You got plenty coming in.
Dude, the money coming in was stupid.
Yeah.
We had 2 houses already paid for. One was a lake house. I had 3 Harleys in the, a boat, brand new truck. I mean, and I'm not gloating.
Whatever you wanted, you could buy it.
I had it. So they start digging into the commissary account. They call a meeting, bring me in, sit me down, and they said, hey, we have found $11,000 that we don't feel you spent correctly. okay. I said, and I basically any elected official has a $10,000 screw up window. Basically, you can steal $10,000, and there's no crime at all, right?
Wow.
Funny how they got to 11.
Yeah, it is.
And I immediately pointed that out. I'm like, okay, you guys got to 11. I said, good for you. I said, you said that I misspent, so you're not accusing me of stealing this. I'm like, no, misappropriating. Okay. I said, let's go to jury trial, because this is stupid.
Yeah.
No, I got to back up. First, I said, that's fine. Commissary is a discretionary account. You have no say in this, right? I said, my commissioners and my counsel, they can complain. And at this point, what I don't know is that they had gone to the commissioners, they had gone to the council, and they'd gone to 4 state prosecutors trying to get a state prosecutor to pick up the case.
And they wouldn't do it.
Because there's no crime.
Yeah.
And I said, guys, there's no crime here. And they're like, and I said, you have no authority over this budget. And they're like, oh, do you remember that that grant for bulletproof vests that you signed that was paid for by the federal government? I said, yeah. And they're like, you didn't read the fine print. And not only did I not read the fine print, neither did 91 other sheriffs in the state of Indiana or the attorney for the Sheriff's Association catch it, that when we signed that grant, we gave full control to the feds over all budgetary items.
Oh, wow.
Man.
The next year, not a single sheriff in the state signed that grant.
Yeah, I guarantee that.
Right? And I'm like, ooh, okay, that kind of hurts. And so I said, okay, let's go to jury trial. This is stupid.
Yeah.
I said, what are you going to charge me with? And they said, misappropriation of funds. I said, okay, let's do it. And they're like, okay, we will do it. And hey, you know, your secretary and your wife, who was an assistant matron, my wife at the time.
That came from that ego.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that
I'm not even remotely scared.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm mad.
Yeah.
And I'm a drunk. Right? I'm not drunk during this meeting, but I guarantee you I was hungover.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're like, hey, you know how your secretary and your wife, assistant matron, are both on that checking account for the commissary? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, they're culpable. We're going to charge them too.
Oh, wow.
Okay, boom. The pinhole.
Yeah.
You know how people say they get God winks?
Yeah.
You know, and that can be positive or negative. Every now and then, you know, like something happens and God's like, hey, pay attention. I don't get God winks. I get the flat-bladed shovel upside the head. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what I get.
Yeah.
And that was one of those moments.
Yeah.
And so now I'm not just looking at me being in trouble. I'm looking at my secretary and my wife potentially going to prison.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want that to happen.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
And so I'm done. So I pled guilty in federal court to misappropriation of funds. Okay. In that second, everything is gone. Everything.
Yeah.
Right? I can't get a job at Speedway.
Federal offense.
Not only that, I'm a dirty cop. Who wants to hire a dirty cop?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm in my hometown of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
It made national news.
Yeah.
And see, the other thing that I left out was during Katrina, there were 7 agencies from Indiana that were the first boots on the ground in the city immediately after. Okay, there was a nationwide call from the president of the National Sheriff's Association saying we need help, and we were down there growling and prowling, returning order to the city.
Yeah.
Well, Homeland Security didn't want us there. Now you tell me why.
Yeah.
They held us up at the border. It's the same thing you're hearing about North Carolina. Yeah. Everything I'm hearing about North Carolina, I lived. I went through.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They did not want you there. They wanted control. What most people don't understand is that a federal law enforcement officer cannot enforce a state law.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
Who down there was breaking a federal law?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they were looting.
Yeah.
They were raping. Yeah. They were burning stuff to the ground. But what federal laws were being broken?
Yeah.
Why were they there?
Yeah.
Right? And so I was outspoken about it while I was there. I was outspoken when I got back. And I bring that up because, and this is very important, I don't want to sit here and act like a victim. Okay? Did I get screwed? Yes, I did. However, my ego is out of control. I'm mouthy about the feds. And I'm a drunk. I set the stage for this to happen.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I don't I can't stand the victimhood thing. Yes, I got a raw deal, but dude, I let it happen.
Your actions led to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean it, and I'm not a good steward.
Yeah.
Right. Why is God gonna? Anyway.
Yep.
So I get ordered to the Terre Haute federal prison, which it's like daycare, right?
Okay.
Okay. I'm like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
And they have so the Fed system has what they call self-report. From the day of conviction, if you're not a flight risk, to whenever they have a bed available, you just go home and wait.
Yeah.
I sat for a year. Now again, I can't get a job.
Yeah.
Okay. Marriage is not in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've lost everything. I'm living in an apartment that I actually owned with my father. It was my father's apartment building, right? Because I can't pay rent anywhere.
Yeah.
I sat for a year. So finally, I become a professional drunk, right? Get the call to self-report, and they're like, hey, on such and such a date, you need to report to Atlanta. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Atlanta, Georgia? Yep. I said, no, the judge ordered me to Terre Haute. And they're like, and this is U.S. Marshal's office I'm talking to. They're like, hey, yeah, that's fine. We know that, but we decide where you go, and you're going to Atlanta. Now, let's back up a little bit. January 4th, 1999, I bust 2 guys on the interstate with the largest cocaine seizure in the United States. That case went federal. Where do you think they were?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
What dorm do you think I got put into?
Wow.
As I walk in the door, the guard announces, hey, everybody, sheriff's here.
They already knew you were coming.
I had a rough first day.
That is insane.
And
It's crazy.
for the next week, there were 5 of us in the infirmary.
Yeah.
Man.
Wow. How long were you there?
I was only there 2 months, but
It was a rough 2 months.
yeah. And I mean, my total sentence was 2 years. I was only, and here's the thing. You think at this point you're at rock bottom. Well, what people forget is that rock bottom has a basement,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And when I was in the Atlanta federal prison, I was just pulling on that trap door to get down in the basement.
Yeah.
I wasn't there yet. I actually got released from there on April 1st, April Fool's Day. I thought, you know what? I'm going to turn April Fool's Day around. This is going to be. That was the worst.
Great day.
That was actually the worst day of my life because I was not prepared for what came next. Okay. And it was a continuation of what was before, but there was no new beginning coming out of prison. I mean,
There was no rehabilitation.
Well,
no help there. I mean,
and here's the editorial comment. When we talk about rehabilitation, and I did prison ministry for a while, as you know, we still do it wrong. Now, what Prison Fellowship does, and what I did was, we take the guys and we teach them life skills with a Christian basis, Christian support, so that we can help them get out. But the problem is when they get, we didn't do anything post-release.
okay.
Here's the problem with every post-release program I have seen, every single one of them. All of them treat the former inmate as a project. I am doing you a favor because I'm giving you a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Every single one of them do that. And that's not the case. I'm not a project, right? Everybody is one bad decision away from jail.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
From bankruptcy and jail. And it happens to good people all the time. And the stigma, now this is going to sound crazy. There are 63,000 documented roadblocks that a convicted felon has to face or potentially will face on a daily basis. Everything from getting a driver's license to getting residency, applying for a job. There are 63,000 roadblocks. Now that sounds insane, doesn't it?
That sounds crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I diverge. I get out of jail. My ex-wife is messing around with one of my best friends. I dove into a bottle. I mean, I dove in. couple months later, I get arrested for DUI in my hometown, get booked into my jail by the guys that I hired.
Wow.
Man.
It doesn't get much worse than that.
They revoke probation. I'm in a halfway house. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
So I spent the next 3 or 4 years getting drunk, getting sober, getting drunk, getting sober. Beth met me at some point in that process during one of my sober phases. And that's when I was... Oh, and so the truck. Let's get back to the truck.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was a long way. That was a long segue, wasn't it? I don't have anything. Dad bought me that truck off of Marketplace. No, I take that back. eBay. $1,500 in Kentucky, south of Cincinnati. It had been an HVAC truck.
Okay.
And it sat too high. It had a V6 motor in it, and it was red and white. Now, I was still living in his apartment building. Long story short, my parents put up with way too much at the time. They got sick of it, kicked me out at one point, and I'm living in that truck.
Yeah.
Right? So during the day, I'm dismantling barns, hauling barnwood in that, and then sleeping in it at night. And I did that for, I don't know, it wasn't long, because I was making a little bit of money. And then things kind of got really weird. I got hired finally by a construction company that was doing a lot of work for some non-for-profits. One of the Christian non-for-profits liked me, hired me. It was on the east side in the worst neighborhood in the city, as their community outreach guy, basically because I was an ex-con, right? Mm-hmm. And I moved into the community, did really well, and then that moved to another ministry job, another to the prison ministry. So, I had a long road of rebuilding my life, right? And, I'm not one of these guys that counts the days, but I know I'm 7 years sober.
Good. And
I can truly say, financially, I am nowhere like I used to be, right? I mean, we're okay.
Yeah.
We're fine. A marriage ended. I have an amazing, godly woman now. I can truly say I would not trade what I have now for what I had then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But God brought you to rock bottom, because I know you were saying you weren't even at the bottom, but you made it into the basement. Oh. It was rock bottom.
And he's hitting me over the head with a shovel at the same time.
All of it at once.
All of it at once. So
doing.
You've lost your everything. You've lost your entire livelihood. And then because of your actions, your parents even have to kick you out of their apartment building. So you have nothing. And then God has totally turned it around, because at some point there, God got a hold of your heart, right?
Well, and here's the thing. He never, yes, he did. I never walked away from him completely.
Yeah. You never just denounced God.
No,
and
no.
Yeah. That's my testimony. I did the same.
Yeah.
Not to the extent you did. But
Good.
I did do the same thing, though. It's like I never denounced it, never walked away from it, but I just wasn't where I should have been.
Yeah.
I remember taking a shower in Atlanta, and I distinctly remember saying out loud, God, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I still hadn't got it yet.
Yeah.
I still hadn't gotten what a turd sandwich I'd become.
Yeah.
It's, as we were talking before this, I've been out of ministry a little over a year now, full-time ministry. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm back in construction as an owner, I guess you could say now, and money's starting to come back and things like that, and now I got to remain focused on maintaining ministry in day-to-day life, as you guys do.
Well, because I look at not just your story, but your personality. Your personality is, to me, very attractive to people. I mean, you draw people in. You're very outgoing. Mm-hmm. You draw people in, and you can be such a huge light to a world that needs God so desperately.
Well, And I hope so.
Yeah, even if you're not in a ministry, you have your own ministry.
Sure. Well, and it's as we were talking before all this, I've had guys who I've never met before on Instagram, because again, I'm not waving the flag, but there's my aunt. You kind of know. I'm not waving the flag, but I don't hide my faith.
Yes.
And I've had guys I've never met before just reach out to me and go, "Okay, I got something going on. I know you're a guy of faith. Can we talk?"
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's also frightening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of us realize the responsibility we have.
Yes.
As Christians, because it's beyond life and death.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that.
It's eternal.
And we overlook that a lot.
Yep.
So anyway,
we've had a few people on. If you're watching our TikTok stuff on videos that we put out, the scripture videos that we put out, we've had several people now message us and ask for prayer.
Sure. Awesome.
And I'm just like, when I see those messages, it's just like, Lord, I'm going to pray for this person. Help them with whatever they're going on.
You do your thing. You do your thing.
And you just feel so honored to be part of that.
Sure.
To think that God is using you in that such a small way. Well, that guy felt like, hey, if I reach out to this guy, I think he's going to pray for me, or he's going to be able to help me. And that's why God is putting us in the positions we're in to be able to do those things. But God brought you down to rock bottom to build you back up, to use you for what he's using you for now.
Right.
This just reminds me once again of the Trevor Evans podcast where he said, "But God."
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And
Beth
you
says
were
that
at
all the
rock.
time.
You were at rock bottom,
Right.
but God.
God, yeah.
Well, and
he changes everything.
Yep.
that blazer, my relationship with Jamie, but God.
Yes.
Yep. For sure.
Beth says that all the time.
Yes.
And it goes back to the verse that you started with. And everybody gets Jeremiah 29:11 so wrong, because here's the thing about Jeremiah 29:11. God's talking to the Israelites who were in captivity at the time, and basically he's saying, in 50 years, you're going to be free again.
Yeah.
That's awesome, unless you're 60.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're hearing this, like, wait a minute, hang on, let me do dude.
So the rest of my life, I'm in captivity.
Right. But, so he's saying, you need to set the stage. When he's saying, I know the plans I have for you, you need to set the stage for the youth coming up behind you. Right? And everybody wave at my aunt. But then the next verse, 12 and 13, and this is so critical because it says, you're gonna seek me out. You're gonna call to me. I'm gonna hear you, and then we're gonna do something.
Yeah.
Right? We forget that we need to seek him out, that we need to call on him,
Yes, that's right.
and we need to say, okay, here I am, send me.
Well,
That's
and something our pastor has mentioned before, and it kind of goes right along with that, is you will always receive an answer for your prayer, but sometimes your answer is not what you want.
Yeah, that's right.
And it goes right
Amen.
along with that. It goes right along with that because, you're going to pray and you're going to seek God out, and, you're expecting the answer that you want to hear, but that's not always what God's got in store.
That's right.
Oh.
And whenever I think about the answer to prayer, I'm praying before we started this podcast, God, use me to do your will in the automotive field.
Sure.
Okay, because that's my passion. And of course my passion is serving God, but use me in the automotive field. Did I ever think I'm going to sit here and do a podcast?
Right.
You can probably already tell this isn't really my
No, you're great at it. You guys actually...
We are not people that do this kind of thing.
Okay, but again,
I'm very
God equips the
reserved
call.
most of the time. That's right.
He doesn't call the equipped, he equips the call.
Yes, so he called me, and then first thought right out of my mind was, Zach, he needs to be part of this.
Well, sure.
And so I pray about it for several months leading up to even talking to Zach about it, because I still can't believe that, God, this is what you want me to do. Okay. And here we are now,
Right.
Well, I mean, we're the quiet people everywhere we go. I mean, we've had people think that we are just horrible, awful, snobby people because we don't talk. We're just quiet. We just kind of keep reserved.
Has anybody told you guys look like Jay and Silent Bob?
I don't even know who
What
Jane
is
and
that?
Silent Bob
Oh
is.
my gosh. Clerks? Oh.
I have no idea.
How old are you?
Look this up.
I'm 44.
Okay, you're old enough.
Okay.
Jay and Silent Bob.
I didn't watch a lot of TV as a kid.
We'll look it
Okay,
up.
no, you Google this.
Okay.
We'll look it up.
All right.
We'll look it up.
All right, we'll look it up. Maybe we'll have to-
And you're going to be offended. And that's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
That joke just kind of died since you didn't know
Yeah,
what I
I'm
was talking
sorry,
about.
man. I
We'll
don't know
figure
who
it out.
is.
We'll figure it
figure
out.
it out.
But yeah, I
I'll
mean,
try and make a Harry Potter reference next. Something. I don't know.
that'll work for me. I like Harry Potter. So.
Florida guys.
Oh man.
Oh man. Here we go again.
I know we receive hate every time we talk to
I
you.
know. Why?
What? No, it's love.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
love.
Okay.
It's love.
Yeah.
So it's just like that.
Out of love, you're trying to get us to like LSs and
No, I mean, you know,
okay.
some people are lost, and you know, all I can do is you know,
love us.
all I can do is show you the way.
Yeah,
and
you're
if
just the messenger.
I am.
Okay.
You know, if you choose not to,
Okay.
not to follow.
Oh my.
Well, let's. So let's kind of spin this back around to.
Where do we spin this to?
This has been
Well,
all over.
It has been, but where's your truck at now?
So-
Tell us about the truck.
So, 2 years ago, I guess, on a whim, I just started tearing things off of it. Right, I had no plan. I knew I wanted a QA1. Didn't know if that would ever happen.
Yeah.
Knew I wanted an LS because I had a 350 in it that was pretty strong. But I didn't know. And this garage, poor Beth, she doesn't ask for much, but she likes her car to be parked in the garage.
Yep, that's my wife.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you get it. So I started this project at the beginning of winter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
In there.
That's so funny you're saying it, because my wife just said yesterday, well, I hope that Caleb's truck is out of the way and Zach can get his truck rolling, a car rolling, so we can get it out, and my car can go back in the garage
I was
for the winter.
supposed to have my car rolling today.
Yeah.
So we'll see how
And
that
you're here.
works. Yeah.
Anyway.
And I got plans tonight. So
Okay. So I started tearing it apart, and the cab stayed on, but everything else came off. Front doghouse, everything. Stripped all the suspension off of it. At PRI, I did make some connection. I already had the connection, but I mean, solidified some QA1 coming. Spent way more money than I intended. I didn't rebuild the LS. I bought, excuse me, I bought a 6-liter. Let's just say it took the shop twice to build it.
Wow.
But they really, the first time may have been their fault, may not have been their fault.
Yeah.
Don't need to get into it. The second time they killed it. I mean, it is rock solid.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a 6-liter. It's got trick flow heads, which they got me a great deal on this shop. I mean, right now, there was a time when I wanted to kill them, but right now, I would recommend anybody going to them.
Yeah.
And that happens.
They stood behind their.
They did, and you know, it's so funny because that was the first time I felt like I was really being tested again, because I was hot.
Yeah.
And
I guarantee you are.
well, because it was 3 days before Power Tour, right? And that thing's done. I mean, it's toast. The engine lived for about 5 minutes.
Wow.
And but I prayed about it going in. I went into it calm. The guy said, you know what? He's like, I can't make this right if you don't let me try. I'm like, fair enough. And it's a beast.
Yeah.
The main reason I didn't build it myself was time. I was trying to get it, and we had other things going on. And
you were trying to get it ready for Power Tour.
And so anyway, it's got a junkyard 4L80 that's not quite right. It does not like reverse. That's okay. I don't like going backwards. The seats in it are from a Hyundai. You have to say it that way. You have to say it that way.
From a Hyundai?
Yeah. No, not a Sonata. Tiburon.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually,
Sports car.
the Hyundai Tiburon seats are the best hot rod seats you will find. My buddy Rusty's got them in his Boys Nova. I've got a set for this in the storage container back there. They are comfortable.
how do you come up with this?
Actually, I can't take credit for this one. Rusty did this. What Rusty and I used to do is we'd go buy seats out of, because I did have Cadillac. I had seats out of a Cadillac STS in that.
Okay.
And I had all the power hooked up, the heat and all that. It was fun, but they just weren't that comfortable.
Yeah.
And
That's surprising. I mean, I feel like Cadillac should be.
You would think. One day Rusty called me. He's like, "Hey, meet me over here." And so we're looking at these Tiburon seats, and I sat in. I'm like, "Man, these are comfy," and they're so simple that it's easy to figure out a bracket. So we just started using Tiburon seats.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. So when you get to looking, Hyundai Tiburon.
Okay.
Now, gutter guard is the best customization tool ever made.
Yeah, which we saw that at LS Fest.
Right.
That's really cool.
You just go to Lowe's, Home Depot, $15, and you got a stack of material. But it was, the whole thing was built in there.
Nice.
Put the 4-link on. I don't know. Am I done? No. It's got rust on it. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about the paint, some people go, "How'd you get that patina on there?" Well, it wasn't planned. Years ago, when I was cleaning out barns, there was a guy that had a shop that I had a dually, and he wanted my dually. It was a C10 dually. He wanted my dually. Well, that still had the V6 in it. And I said, and it was red and white. And I said, throw a 350 in it, shoot it flat black, and you can have my dually. We had it for like 6 months.
Dang.
Calls me one day and goes, "Hey, it's done." So I had my dad drive me over there. We pull in the parking lot. I don't see my truck anywhere. And Dad goes, "Hey, I think that's your truck over there." And I look, and here's this like grape. I mean, it was like a withered gray grape. I'm like, "That's not my truck." And then I look, and the license plate on it was my truck.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So what this dude had done, without telling me, is he rhino guarded my entire truck.
Man.
Okay, so for the next 3 years, I'm like peeling this stuff off.
Yeah, it still had like the sandy texture.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
And so the black or gray that's on it is the primer that he'd put on it.
Okay.
And you can see the reds bleeding through.
Yeah.
And but I've got some rust. I need to repair some rocker panels, but I mean, it's not glaring rust. Plus, I told you that Dad and I built cars for years. The last car he and I did together was a 68 Chevelle SS, numbers matching, 396.
Wow, nice.
Cool.
Too nice.
Yeah.
Hated that car.
Because you're afraid you're going to tear it up.
Couldn't stand driving it anywhere.
I feel the same way. I hate getting nice cars.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to drive by feel. If I bounce off something, okay.
Yeah.
Right? I grew up with the shiny paint, and I don't want shiny paint anywhere near me. Yeah. Now, her car will have nice paint. Yeah. Right? But you can see the Blazer, I rolled that on with that's house paint.
It looks like it should, though.
Yeah, it does. Like it works.
Yeah.
It works.
So, like, the Cobra is a nice car.
Well, it was before I had it.
Well, I know, but
it was a nice car before I had it.
It's a nice car again.
Okay, you can just say it is a nice car again.
And
yes.
I really pay attention to where it's parked.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I pay attention to everything that's done around it. It's not a perfect car, but it's the nicest old car I got.
Yeah. Well, when we bought it, I bought it for, this is the nicest thing I've ever owned. I bought it for $9,000, I think. And it was sitting in a garage. I spent its whole life in a garage. It got maybe 700 miles in the last year.
Yeah.
Had 80,000 miles on it.
Oh, wow.
All original car except for the exhaust and the cold air intake. And that's it. Yeah. And did it have 410s in it? It had 410s in it.
Okay.
In it.
Yeah. So it got up and went. I mean, it would run a 13-second quarter mile, which is very fast for that car. But it was too nice for me, and I hated it because it was so nice.
Oh,
yeah. When he wanted to buy it, I was like, yeah, take it. Yeah. I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, I bought it, got it back into nice condition.
Yes, because I let it go.
He was a little rough on it.
So now are you running it down the strip?
I ran it on Power Tour one time. I'm not good because I've never drag raced before.
I'm a good straight line driver.
Yeah.
He likes autocross.
So I need to remind. Okay, so you'll like this.
But I did do autocross in it on Power Tour 2 years ago.
Okay.
And loved it. And I'm like, that's the direction I want to go with this car. It just hasn't happened yet.
So what you need to remind Zach is that drag racing is for fast cars. Autocross is for fast drivers.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, I understand. Well, but see, at the time, I thought I was hot stuff because I had the fastest car in my friend group.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I've been there too.
We went to this big import show, and I'm a big Mustang muscle car guy, so I was like, I'm going to show everybody what a real car is.
You got whooped by a GDM.
Actually, I didn't. I beat everybody I raced. I beat everybody I raced, but I went in there.
This was at Beach Bend.
Yes. Yeah,
it was.
I still had the stock transmission in that car. It was a T45, and those transmissions suck. Every Ford guy knows that those are like awful.
They've been forks. Really bad.
Yes, they're bad.
Okay.
So I go to the strip, and I don't think they prepped it because I spun all the way through first and second, which is ridiculous. I mean, you got a bunch of drag racing going on. You're not going to prep the track, but whatever.
It was import lines.
Yeah, it was import lines.
Right.
Well, because there's a lot of, there was like 4-second cars there. Like 4-second 8-mile cars.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some fast stuff. But I went out there with my buddies, had to show them, what a real car was, because that was their crowd as the, import group.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to pay attention. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And
such a smart aleck all the time.
I know.
So here's the thing. I would like to be sarcastic. I can't quite figure out how to do it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, finish your story.
Anyway, I was racing a bunch of people. I had a buddy that wanted to race me with a Fiesta ST, and his car was like 2 seconds slower than mine. And then I had some guy in a Lightning that wanted to race me. His car was a full second slower than mine. Well, then the fastest guy I raced, this is 3 races now. Fastest guy I raced, I forgot to mention, my T45, a month prior, would not go into 5th gear.
Okay.
It would go in and then pop out.
Yeah.
So.
And I didn't really know that was going on.
Well.
He may have mentioned it a time or two.
Yeah, but it eventually worked itself out. Started working. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll just drive it. So I go and race this last guy, and he has a turbo Civic. It's actually really fast. And the only reason he couldn't hook up is because he had this camber on the front, and he just spun all the way down the track. But he finished higher mile per hour than me, and it wasn't he didn't have like a whole shot win, but his reaction time was bad, and I think he could have won if we just had a tiny bit more track. But either way, this one guy wanted to race me in a 95 Mustang GT, and I knew he was going to lose because I had a Cobra and he just had a 5.0 Mustang stock car. So, but I was like, no, I need to let my car cool down. It's getting a little hot. Maybe we'll race later. Well, on my way home from Beach Bend, I never raced him. On my way home from Beach Bend, I see him driving past me on the interstate. I was like, okay. So I go to downshift out of 5th gear, and it does not come out of 5th gear. It's stuck.
Stuck in 5th.
So I stopped on the side of the road, not thinking, and he pulls over with me. He's like, man, my car's stuck in 5th gear. I don't know what's going on. But I stopped on a hill. So I called my dad, and he's like, you're still like 80 miles from home. You're going to have to drive home. I was like,
so how do we get it back up to 5th gear?
So,
because
I'm like, up the hill.
I'm like, we're not getting a tow truck tonight.
No,
it was late.
So what I do is I hold the clutch down and rev it to the moon and just slowly let it out, and it slowly moves up that hill.
Yeah.
And I drive all the way home in 5th gear.
Awesome.
But it was awful.
Ran red lights, getting off the interstate.
Yeah. He was upset. But,
he got home, you could smell the clutch.
Oh, yeah, you smelled it before you heard the car.
Oh, yeah. Well, now, thanks to Handler Motorsports, it's got a really nice built TR3650. So it's got a nice transmission
out of 2001, 2004,
Mustang GT. But they built it was like their stage 2 build, up to 600 horsepower or whatever. But I say all that to say that I beat on cars really badly.
Yeah.
Really badly.
As you should.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's fun, but I'm more conservative.
Yes.
So.
He likes nice, easy cruisers.
Yeah.
I like pushing everything I've got to the limits.
Yeah.
So
we're opposites, and it makes it fun.
Okay. That works.
Yeah. So Mark, it's been great having you on the podcast.
Sorry I babbled as long as I did.
We
it was great. It was good.
I think that people can take from your message what God can do and how he just will break you down sometimes when that's what he has to do to build you back up to what he needs to work with. And great story, great testimony for everybody to hear.
Another good but God moment.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
We've noticed that as being a reoccurring theme on this podcast.
Yeah, it's been great. We appreciate it. And guys, we ask you to get out there and follow our YouTube channel and like us on Instagram, TikTok, everything. Make some comments. Let us know how you like the podcast. And we love you guys.
Well, hold on. We need to shout him out. We got to shout our guest out.
What?
Where can we find you on social media?
Oh, BuiltShoudaBought Garage.
All right.
All right.
And that's YouTube. If I ever put out another one, Flip Flop, Posergram, and Fool's Book.
Yep. Okay.
All right. There you go.
You heard them. All of them. So if you like the podcast, please give us a thumbs up on any platform you're listening to it on or watching it. And we love you guys, and we will see you next time.